She walked into the Lagos salon on a Tuesday morning, radiant, glowing, the kind of woman who turned heads without trying. Amaka Okafor had everything: a loving husband, a beautiful home in Lekki Phase 1, and a marriage that made other women envious. The waist beads she wore, deep blue and gold beads that shimmered beneath her Ankara wrapper, were a gift from her closest friend. "Wear them every day," Chidinma had told her with a knowing smile. "They will make your husband worship the ground you walk on." 3 months later, Chinedu packed his bags and moved to Abuja without explanation. He couldn't look his wife in the eyes. He couldn't even say her name without his hands trembling. The man who had loved Amaka with his whole soul now acted like she was a stranger, like something about her terrified him to his core. What Amaka didn't know was that those beads, those beautiful beads blessed at a shrine in Badagry, weren't meant to strengthen love. They were meant to destroy it. And the woman who gave them to her had been planning this destruction for longer than Amaka could imagine. This is a true story that happened in Lagos, Nigeria, just 2 years ago. A story that exposes the dark side of jealousy, the weaponizing of culture, and how the most beautiful traditions can be twisted into tools of destruction. How did a simple strand of waist beads, called a leek in Yoruba culture, turn a 7-year marriage into ashes? What did Chidinma really do to those beads before giving them to Amaka? And why did 3 other women in their church circle experience the exact same mysterious breakdown in their marriages, all within the same year, all after receiving gifts from the same woman? The answers will reveal a calculated pattern of destruction that left families broken and hearts shattered across Lagos. Before we go deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Amaka Okafor met her husband Chinedu at the University of Lagos, both of them studying business administration, both of them from good Igbo families who valued education and hard work. Their love story was the kind that made people believe in destiny. Chinedu would wait for Amaka outside her lecture halls with suya and zobo drink, making her laugh until her stomach hurt. They married 2 years after graduation in a traditional wedding that had over 500 guests dancing to Flavor's Ada Ada at the reception. 7 years into their marriage, they had built something beautiful. Chinedu ran a successful logistics company in Apapa, while Amaka managed a boutique in Victoria Island that sold high-end African fashion. They lived in a 4-bedroom duplex, drove good cars, went to Winter's Chapel every Sunday, and were trying for their second child after their son Nambi turned 3 years old. Life was good, but it wasn't perfect. The stress of business, the pressure from both families for more children, and the exhaustion of Lagos hustle had created small cracks in their intimacy. That's when Chidinma entered their lives. Chidinma Nwosu was everything you'd want a friend. Stylish, successful, always ready with advice or a listening ear. She attended the same church, always sat in the 3rd row wearing the latest Gelly styles, her makeup flawless, her perfume expensive. She owned a beauty supply store in Surulere and seemed to know everyone worth knowing in Lagos. When Amaka mentioned during Women's Fellowship that she and Chinedu had been distant lately, barely talking beyond logistics about their son and bills, Chidinma pulled her aside after service. "Sister Amaka, I have something that can help you," Chidinma said, her voice low, conspiratorial. Our mothers and grandmothers knew these things. Modern women have forgotten the old ways of keeping a man interested, keeping that fire burning. She invited Amaka to her shop the following Saturday, and when Amaka arrived, Chidinma was waiting with several strands of waist beads laid out on velvet cloth. "These are special alik," Chidinma explained, holding up a particularly striking strand of blue and gold glass beads. "My grandmother, who was from Osogbo, she taught me how to select beads with the right energy. These colors, blue for loyalty and gold for prosperity, they will draw your husband back to you. Make him remember why he married you. Make him desire you the way he did when you first met." Amaka held the beads, feeling their smooth weight in her hands. She wasn't superstitious. Her family was staunchly Christian, but she also knew that many Yoruba Christians still honored certain traditions. Waist beads were cultural, not religious, right? They were worn by her grandmother, by women across Nigeria for centuries. What harm could they do? I can't accept such an expensive gift, Amaka protested, but Chidinma insisted. Consider it an investment in your marriage, sister. But you must promise me something. Once I tie them on you, don't remove them. Let them stay on your body for at least 3 months. That's how long it takes for the energy to fully work. And don't tell Chinedu where they came from. Let him just discover them naturally. Right there in the back of the shop, Chidinma tied the beads around Amaka's waist, above her hips, securing them with multiple knots. Perfect, she said, stepping back with satisfaction. Go home and watch what happens. The first 2 weeks were exactly what Chidinma had promised. Chinita noticed the beads immediately that first night, his eyes lighting up with curiosity and desire. When did you start wearing these? He asked, his voice thick with interest. Just trying something different, Amaka replied, feeling suddenly beautiful, suddenly powerful. That night, they connected with an intensity they hadn't experienced in months, maybe years. Chinedu became attentive again, coming home earlier from the office, taking Amaka and Namdi out to Eco Hotel for Sunday brunch, buying her flowers from the vendors on Admiralty Way. But then, slowly, things began to change in ways Amaka couldn't understand. Chinedu started having nightmares, waking up at 2 a.m. covered in sweat, saying he dreamed of being chased by something he couldn't see. He'd stare at Amaka during breakfast with this strange expression, part longing, part fear, like he wanted to reach for her but couldn't make himself do it. Are you feeling okay? Amaka would ask, worried. I'm fine, just stressed from work, he'd say, but his hands would shake when he held his coffee mug. By the 6th week, Chinedu stopped coming to bed at night. He'd sleep on the living room couch, claiming he didn't want to disturb her with his restlessness. He stopped eating the food she cooked, saying his stomach was upset. He couldn't look at her directly, his eyes always sliding away, settling instead on her waist, on those beads, with an expression that looked like terror. Amaka tried to talk to him, tried to understand what was happening, but Chinedu couldn't explain himself. When I'm around you, he finally admitted one night, his voice breaking, I feel like I'm being controlled, like my thoughts aren't my own, like something is pulling at me, forcing me to feel things that don't feel natural. I love you, Amaka. I do, but I feel like if I stay in this house, I'm going to lose my mind completely. 2 days later, he moved out to a hotel in Ikoyi. 1 week after that, he transferred to his company's Abuja branch. He filed for separation through a lawyer, refusing to see Amaka in person, refusing to explain beyond saying he needed space for his mental health. Their families were in chaos, both sides unable to understand what had destroyed such a solid marriage. Amaka was devastated, confused, angry. She tried calling Chidinma for support, but Chidinma's number was suddenly not going through. When Amaka drove to the beauty supply store in Surulere, it was closed with a for lease sign in the window. Chidinma had vanished. If this story has your heart racing, comment, I'm still watching. Let's see who's truly following until the end. And ask yourself, would you recognize if a gift was actually a weapon? Would you know the difference between a blessing and a curse wrapped in beautiful beads? Amaka refused to accept that her marriage was over. She knew something unnatural had happened, something beyond the normal struggles of marriage. She needed answers. First, she tried to remove the beads herself, but the knots Chidinma had tied were impossibly tight. She pulled at them until her fingers bled, tried cutting them with scissors, even nail clippers, but the thread wouldn't break. It was as if the beads were fused to her body. Desperate, Amaka confided in her older sister Ngozi, who had always been more connected to their Igbo roots, who knew the old ways their parents had tried to hide from them in the name of Christianity. Ngozi took one look at the beads, and her face went pale. Amaka, where did you get these? A friend gave them to me from church. She said they would help my marriage. Ngozi shook her head slowly. Sister, these beads have been worked on. Look at the pattern. Look at the way certain stones are placed. This isn't traditional alik for beauty or health. Someone has put something on these beads, bound them with intentions you didn't ask for. She took Amaka to see Mama Nina, an elderly woman in their village in Anambra State who understood both the Christian faith and the traditional practices their ancestors had honored. Mama Nina was in her 70s, a respected woman who had helped many people navigate problems that existed between the physical and spiritual realms. When Mama Nina examined the beads without touching them, walking around Amaka in a slow circle, humming prayers under her breath, her expression grew grave. "My daughter, these beads were not made with good intentions," Mama Nina finally said. "Whoever gave them to you knows about binding work, about using objects to manipulate the minds and hearts of people. These beads were designed to create confusion, to make your husband desire you, but also fear you, to trap him in an emotion so strong and unnatural that his only escape would be to run. This is the work of someone who wanted to destroy your marriage while making you think you were strengthening it." Amaka felt her stomach drop. "Why would anyone do this to me? What did I do to her?" "Sometimes, my child, it's not about what you did. It's about what you have that someone else wants, or what you represent that makes someone else feel inadequate. Jealousy is a powerful force, and when people nurse it long enough, they seek ways to destroy what they cannot have." Over the next 3 days, Mama Nina performed cleansing rituals, burning specific herbs, preparing baths with natural ingredients, and speaking prayers in both Igbo and English. She called on the protection of God and the guidance of the ancestors, acknowledging the healing required both faith and wisdom. On the 3rd day, as Mama Nina said a final prayer, the beads suddenly snapped and fell to the ground, the thread breaking cleanly. Amaka sobbed with relief, but Mama Nina's face remained serious. "The beads are removed, but the damage to your husband's mind and heart, that will take time to heal. He needs cleansing too, but he has to be willing. And you need to find this woman who did this, because if she did it to you, she has likely done it to others." Amaka began investigating Chidinma with the help of her sister and some friends from church. What they discovered was chilling. Chidinma's real name was Chinasa Obi. She had a history of moving from church to church, from social circle to social circle, always targeting successful women with stable marriages. They found 4 other women whose marriages had mysteriously collapsed within months of becoming close friends with Chidinma, all of them describing the same pattern. Friendship, gifts of jewelry or waist beads, sudden and unexplainable breakdown of their husband's emotions, and then Chidinma's disappearance. One woman, Blessing from Acacia, had lost her husband to suicide after he became so confused and distressed that he couldn't function anymore. Another woman, Ifioma from Aja, had her husband committed to a psychiatric facility because he became violent and paranoid. The pattern was unmistakable. Through private investigators, they tracked Chidinma to Benin City, where she had opened another beauty supply store and was already ingratiating herself into a new church community. When confronted by the women's lawyer and a reporter from a popular Lagos blog, Chidinma showed no remorse. Her own story emerged: a husband who had left her years ago for her best friend, taking everything they'd built together. Instead of healing from that betrayal, Chidinma had nursed her bitterness into a mission of destruction. "They all had what was taken from me," she said coldly when finally cornered. "Happy marriages, stable homes, husbands who love them. Why should they have peace when I had none? I learned from a woman in Bay Degree how to work with beads, how to place intentions and confusion into them, and I used that knowledge to balance the scales. Those women trusted me too easily, believed my smiles, accepted my gifts without question. Their naivety made them easy targets." The case went viral on social media. "Lagos woman uses waist beads to destroy marriages" trended on Nigerian Twitter for weeks. Chidinma was arrested and charged with fraud, obtaining property under false pretenses, and causing psychological harm. The legal case took months, but eventually Chidinma was convicted and sentenced to 5 years in prison. But for Amaka, the real healing had to happen beyond the courtroom. She reached out to Chinedu in Abuja, explained everything that happened, sent him documentation, even convinced him to see a therapist who specialized in spiritual trauma. Chinedu agreed to one meeting, then another. The confusion he'd felt, the fear, the sense of being controlled, it all began to make sense to him once he understood what had been done. "I thought I was going crazy," he told Amaka during one of their counseling sessions, tears streaming down his face. "I couldn't understand why I felt such terror around the woman I loved. It was like being in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Their reconciliation wasn't immediate or easy. It took 6 months of therapy, cleansing rituals from both Christian and traditional spiritual leaders, and deep conversations about trust, vulnerability, and healing. But slowly, carefully, they rebuilt what had been broken. Amaka also became an advocate, speaking at churches and women's groups across Lagos about cultural awareness, spiritual safety, and the importance of understanding the intentions behind gifts, especially those connected to intimate or spiritual aspects of life. Waist beads themselves are not evil, she would say in her talks. They are a beautiful part of our Nigerian heritage, worn by Yoruba, Igbo, and other women for centuries with positive meanings. But like any powerful cultural symbol, they can be misused by people with harmful intentions. The lesson isn't to fear our traditions, but to honor them by ensuring we receive them from trustworthy sources, by understanding what we're wearing and why, and by never being afraid to ask questions or seek help when something feels wrong. She partnered with cultural organizations to educate people about authentic waist bead traditions versus corrupted practices, helping others distinguish between genuine cultural gifts and potential weapons disguised as friendship. So here's what I want to ask you today. If you were in Amaka's position, would you have accepted those beads? Would you have questioned your friend's intentions? And how do you balance honoring cultural traditions with protecting yourself from those who might misuse them? This story happened in Lagos, but the lesson applies everywhere. Jealousy exists in every community. Manipulation takes many forms, and sometimes the people who smile the brightest are nursing the darkest intentions. The point isn't to become suspicious of everyone or to reject our beautiful Nigerian traditions. Waist beads, whether you call them alik, mbaji, or jigaida, are part of our heritage and should be celebrated when used correctly. The point is to be wise, to know who you trust, to understand what you're accepting into your life, and to never ignore that inner voice that tells you something isn't right. Have you or someone you know experienced something similar? Have you ever received a gift that turned out to be something other than what it seemed? Share your story in the comments below. Let's create a space where we can learn from each other's experiences and protect one another from those who would weaponize our culture against us. And if this story opened your eyes, if it made you think twice about blind trust, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. We tell real Nigerian stories that matter, stories that reveal truths we need to understand to protect ourselves and our families. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that could change your life or save your marriage. Until next time, honor your culture, trust wisely, and remember that not every gift comes from a pure heart. Sometimes, the most beautiful beads carry the ugliest intentions.